when we take long, full breaths, especially in the lower abdomen, our brain function changes and it gives us access to our subconscious. So, what started happening as soon as the breathing function goes from the brainstem or the medulla oblongata to the frontal lobal brain, and it frees up our subconscious. So, all these emotions, fragmented memories, physical sensations would come up from my past. Science has proven today that trauma, all our greatest wounding, is imprinted in the right side of the brain, in the subconscious, through physical sensations and emotions. When I was growing up, talking about your emotions was not a thing. In my family, you couldn't express your emotions. There was too much yelling. Anger was okay at times, but you could never be angry at my dad. You could never express anger. Look out but my parents grew up with not having an emotion. That was life.
Emotionally unavailable.
Well, it is so nice to meet you, and I'm gonna switch screens for just a second so I don't say this wrong. So you are a spiritual coach, a master healer, and an author. And I read your profile again this morning, and I always kind of just go, what's pulling me? Where do I want to start? That's how I do it. I don't do like all this. I'm somehow always come off very prepared, but I don't do a lot to prepare. But, and here's what's funny to me. When I actually read your profile a couple of days ago and then again this morning, but I um I was very pulled to how your spiritual journey really, opened up for you, the story about your brother. Um and I was like, well, I bet she's asked that a lot though. So I'm not going to ask that. And then today I was like, but yeah, I really do wanna ask that. So, if you wouldn't mind, I'm sure you talk about it a lot, but I just think it's such, like, a fantastic experience to share, and I love stories like that. So if you wouldn't mind kinda sharing with the audience what happened to you that day.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a story I never used to share.
Oh,
It was
really?
a big deal the first time I shared it because of my feelings of what will people think. I never wanted people to think I was weird, and that was so ingrained in my family. So we can talk about that and how sharing that story has helped me grow, and how, you know, it ties into your topic of emotionally unavailable. To be emotionally, we should be we're gonna talk about this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop talking right now because I would prefer to save it for the
Well,
podcast.
and it's funny because you saying that, I guess the truth is part of the reason I wasn't gonna start with it is also because I was worried about how it would be received. Like, that is, and then today I was like, "But you really want it, and we're working on that, so just ask." So, it's funny to me that you had difficulty sharing the story for the same reason that I was, like, a little nervous to start that way. I've had so many wild conversations about spirituality on this show, but every time I'm like, "Is this gonna be the thing that's too much?" But it was more like, that's really where I wanted to start, but so, like, is what if someone just la la all the what ifs, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's a coincidence that we're resonating on the same level for this story that's so impactful for you.
Thank you. Yeah, let's trust it all.
Yes, absolutely. So
At the
you were on
risk
a
at the
beach.
risk of being judged.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what did that look like for you? You had I mean, you were into energetics at the very least, right? Up to this point because you were receiving an energy healing session, is that correct?
Oh, I was not into energetics. Receiving an energy healing session, I had received one energy healing session before that, previous to that, by a chiropractor, a friend of hers.
Okay.
She recommended me to this guy, and my back was out, and I was in rough shape. Uh, it was it was around that time I had a pinched nerve in my neck. That's right, I had the pinched nerve in my neck. I was going for chiropractic, and then this friend recommended this, and I always, she was kinda spiritual, but I didn't know anything about it. So, we were not
Oh.
close friends or anything, and so she just said, "Can I practice kinesiology on you?" That's all I knew, and kinesiology is really muscle testing. The energy healing portion is something different and was actually similar to what this chiropractor was doing, so no, not open,
Wow. So you
unaware.
had this experience with nothing kinda coming in. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, 0 background, raised Catholic, went to church, stopped going to church, still believed in God, but nothing
Yes.
of any sort had happened in my life, and so I'm just laying there in the sand, and she's doing all this finger testing. Is it this person? Is it that person? Is it your aunt? Is it her aunt? Is it that? And then she would get the right person. She would say, "Oh, it's your uncle." Which uncle? And then I might respond and it's about this, and she would do whatever to clear that, but I have no idea what she was doing because I'm just
And
laying in.
were you kind of like, "Okay," like, were you still skeptical during the session itself?
uh I was I think I was somewhat indifferent. I was sorta
Okay.
waiting for something to happen, just noticing, but not really attached to it because it didn't seem the same as what this chiropractor had done probably a couple weeks earlier, and that was my
Okay.
only exposure to anything energetic, anything spiritual at all, and so it seemed uneventful, and I was trying to trust her and see if I'd get anything out of it, and then it happened, and just this huge ball of bright white light. Now my eyes are closed. This
Mhm.
huge ball of bright white light is hovering above me, and it was like instantly so much love, like so beyond anything I had experienced. It was so beyond, and I knew it was my deceased brother who had taken his life,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because when I just said, "Your uncle," now I see that, oh, that uncle that I was thinking of just in that moment was my uncle that took his life.
Oh.
So there's a bit of suicide in my family.
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew it was him. How did I know? I don't know. I don't know how
Just
I
knew.
knew.
Yeah.
I just knew there was just so much love. So tears are rolling down my face. And then she's talking so fast, I couldn't find a break to interrupt, but it wasn't like my brain could even think because I
Right.
was so in it. It was just all this love. And then I'm just waiting. So I'm sitting immersed in this love, so loved, tears rolling down my face, and just in awe. And then she says, "It's your brother." And she's gonna go on, and then she says, "Oh my god, he's here." And I said, "I know."
I know. I love it.
So we were both so then for her to recognize that, we were both so blown away, and he spoke to me through her.
Mhm.
Never channeled a person before.
Oh,
I don't
really?
I don't even know if she knew I had a deceased brother. We weren't close friends. We
Yeah.
knew each other. We kinda hung out in one circle of sort of the same friends, and I saw her occasionally, and we just decided to go up island and pick oysters on the
Yeah.
weekend. And, we rented a place and thought it'd be good to get to know each other and stuff like that. And then, I asked her a number of questions, you know and I asked her why he did it. So this I've
Oh,
never shared before. I said to ask him, "Why did you do that? Why did
yeah.
you take your life?" And he said he was very troubled. He said, "I was very troubled." And what she said he said was that he was actually suffering from bipolar and was undiagnosed. So he was, at the very least, seriously depressed. And, um, and the interesting thing was that was a time, we're talking over 30 years ago, where depression was just starting to be diagnosed,
Mhm.
illness, and people were just starting to get medication. It was just starting to happen. And I had another friend who was diagnosed with depression, and she said, "Here, read this flyer." And I read it, and there was sort of a little tick list, all these questions, a little quiz. And I said, "Wow, I've got 7 out of 11 right on it." I just remember that number 7. And the next time I saw my doctor, I asked him about it. So he had me fill in this big, long, um, questionnaire. And he said, "Cheryl, you're severely depressed."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Wow, okay." So he put me on medication. So I had been on the medication at that time, maybe 2 or 3 months at the most. Not
Wow.
and my brothers and so then I eventually asked, "Why did you come? Why did you come here to see me?" And he said, "Because he wanted me to start meditating." I was like, "Meditate?" You know, "What is that? What?" And,
Say more.
yeah, and but we talked, and eventually he would show up throughout we were up island. This was on Vancouver Island. We call it Up Island near Bowser. And over the weekend, there were times I started to be able to hear him as well, and I'll never forget the moment. Oh, wow, it was something else. I was just, like, in awe, like, this was just a magical time. It was like the whole world opened up, and we're going down to the beach again, and I'm up on this little bluff. I'm standing up there, and I could sense him down below me in the sand and rocks, and this is there was sand and then there were all these big rocks and the tide would go out and that's where we'd go and pick oysters. And I could sense his presence there and I could hear him and we're communicating. And then I said, it's so wild. I can hear you, but can you let me see you? And I waited and suddenly he jumped up beside me and he said, "No, you can't see me." And then he moves his arm like this, "But you can feel me." And he used to
Wow.
do that. It was something when when he was alive, he would say something funny and he would rub shoulders with you. It was just like to
Mm.
connect, and he
Wow.
did that. And I just burst into tears
Yeah.
to feel his presence like that. So
Yes. Wow. Well, that is quite the experience, especially as a gateway into spirituality. My goodness. So you start meditating, and how does your spirituality evolve from there?
so I found a class, I found a course immediately to take, and but my view of spirituality is you communicate with spirits. So I was phoning all these meditation centers, and they would all ask me the same question, "Why do you want to learn to meditate?" "Oh, so I can communicate with my deceased brother." And they would all say, "Sorry, we don't have that kind of meditation." I'm like, "Really?" So I'm just like, so 3 places. So I'm sort of befuddled. And then I went into a building when I was back from the weekend after these calls first thing in the morning. from where I was working. And I had this lunchtime appointment. I'm walking down the hall in this commercial building, and here's a sign on a door, meditation classes starting the following evening. So it's like,
Wow.
oh, okay. So I wrote down the phone number and called and registered. And cell phones were a brand new thing at that time. Not many people had them, so I didn't, I had to do it the old-fashioned way. And
Yeah.
I went and I did the course, and it was the whole premise, the number one basic method was to focus on the air entering and leaving your nostrils, so that's your focal point. And
Yeah.
then you could also, uh, later on it was try and feel your vibration, feel your body vibrating or stuff like that. And we would do different exercises and kind of move energy. But my body would want to go into a really long breath. So I asked the instructor more than once, is it okay if I breathe this way? No, you just breathe normally. So I really was wanting to be a good student and do it the right
The
way.
right way. Yeah.
Once I was finished the course and I was meditating at home, I meditated about 8 months before I had a real experience of presence, of heightened awareness, of what I would call a spiritual experience of being in a high vibration and more open. Took 8 months. I remember every day meditating, and not much would happen. I would still connect with my younger brother once in a while. But what I didn't know, it's the number one thing I use today and I teach today, is the long, full breath. And what it does, when we take long, full breaths, especially in the lower abdomen, our brain function changes and it gives us access to our subconscious. So what started happening, and it's proven, science has proven that this exists. As soon as the breathing function goes from the brainstem or the medulla oblongata to the frontal lobal brain, and it frees up our subconscious. So all these emotions, fragmented memories, physical sensations would come up from my past. And
Mm.
I have since learned, science has proven today that trauma, all our greatest wounding, is imprinted in the right side of the brain, in the subconscious, through physical sensations and emotions. So
Mhm.
I would, when I was growing up, talking about your emotions was not a thing. We,
Right.
in my family, you couldn't express your emotions. There was too much yelling, in my opinion. So anger was okay at times, but you could never be angry at my dad. You could never express anger. Look out if you,
Yeah.
you know, you. But my parents grew up with not having an emotion. People
Oh,
didn't.
sure.
That was life. My parents were not bad
Yeah,
people.
this is new. Like the
Yeah,
ability to express yourself. I mean, there wouldn't be so many of us out here teaching people how to be vulnerable, even with yourself, how to feel safe when you're being seen. You and I being honest about the fact that we still kind of care what people think. You know what I mean? Like it's it's a very human experience to care what people think. And we are saying we just try to transcend that and do the hard thing, but we still care, but that this is new. I mean, everybody had a very similar experience. If you think about the silent generation and how that informed the boomers and the elder Gen X, and then, like I'm a baby Gen X elder millennial, but like the pattern's there. It's so easily seen because you were to be seen and not heard. Your only purpose on this earth was to serve to your own demise and make your parents look good because your parents had no identity outside of work, dad, and mom, you. So you had to make her look good at all costs. I mean, that was everything you did was a direct reflection and extension of her. Her own fear and her own shame were triggered 24/7, just like mine were. Yeah,
thank
totally.
thank you for saying all of that. because it's so true. And if we look at it from the perspective of we developed hundreds, if not thousands, of neural pathways that went along with that. And
Yes.
part of humans evolving is we develop new neural pathways. So here I was doing these meditations, and I'm touching into all these repressed emotions. Any memories that are held in the subconscious of trauma are always fragmented. It's always just
Mhm.
pieces. So if we focus too much on the memories, what the left brain wants to do is fill in the blanks.
Yep.
And then we can be maybe making up stories or twisting it a bit. So if we stay out of the story and just stay with the emotion and the physical sensation, then we can move a lot. So here I was doing this, and I'm trying to find something or somebody who understood. And I couldn't,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I
I
was,
bet. I bet.
so I'm doing all of this, and my life became about healing. I was recently out of a divorce through a covert narcissist, and those
Oof.
words were not expressed. And I'm a single mother with 2 kids, and
Mhm.
they think I'm crazy, and their friends think I'm weird. I'd meditate. I had this sitting room off my bedroom, and they would sneak in
Oh,
to the
I can only imagine.
look
I
at
can
me and
only imagine the response of the
so
people around you.
So it's now the basis of all the work I do is the full breath to help people get into the subconscious. So after 32 years of doing this, I'm telling you, I know how to go deep. That is
Yeah.
superpower of mine. I own it. I'm not worried about
Good.
what people think. I help people go to the deepest, darkest places that they need to safely clear, safely release, so they can discover more of their own light and the truth of who they are.
And you know what that makes me think of? This may sound weird, but I've kind of only just this week become 100% sure, convinced, whatever word you want to use, that there are zero coincidences, okay? So when you say full breath, I have to believe that the fact that I forget to breathe in my normal everyday life all the time, like I'll be like, oh Lord, I've been holding my breath. I didn't even know. And then, like, because my daughter will think I'm mad because I'll be like, oh, I got to take a deep breath. And so I do. And she's like, what? Because I also will just breathe like that if I am upset. So she's like, what? And I'm like, oh, I had been holding my breath too long. I don't think it's a coincidence that I was a person who was incredibly reactive and that learning to breathe is a part of my healing process. I mean, it fueled, I think, um, my tension, my agitation, the fact that now anything external of me is a threat to my safety. I really believe the fact that I still this is something I catch myself doing, that I hold my breath a lot and have since I was a child and had sleep apnea. And I also don't think that is a coincidence. Like as a baby, I had really bad sleep apnea. And so I really think that's why it's been such a pivotal part of my journey is just because like just learning to get into a different energy just through breath work, you know? That was more of a
It's
side, but you know.
Yeah, no, no, it's so true. And so what's actually happening with you and so many of us is we hold the breath because that's the neural pathway, like I was talking about, because it's rooted in trauma. So
You're
we're
bracing.
traumatized, we can go into fight, flight, or freeze. It's the freeze response because we can't as a little one, when you're 2 years old, you can't leave your home, hop in a car, and go drive somewhere else where you feel safe. You're
Mhm.
stuck there. You can't necessarily react to your parents and the situation. So we freeze. And I just want to throw in here that I can't tell you how many people I work with that at the age of 2, they develop control because they see this need to control their environment and control people because they see that the adults around them are a mess everything's chaotic and they can't handle it. But what you're speaking of is that freeze response, and we hold the breath. And I remember going for my first acupuncture session, and I was actually, it wasn't the first one. I had seen this guy again. It was maybe the second or third. I probably stopped after that. But I remember meeting a woman who breathed up here. He had talked to me about the breath. And this woman, it was like she was breathing in her shoulders. And he said, "Oh, he said she had serious wounding, very serious trauma, likely before the age of 1 as an infant. She never learned to breathe because she was holding her breath so much. And so regardless of where you're at, you can notice where do you breathe? That's one thing. If I invite you all at home, Melissa, if you want to do this, where is your breath in your body when you breathe normally? So it's kind of often when we focus on the breath, we change it. But notice how deeply you're breathing. And
Yeah,
so,
I don't breathe very deep at all. In fact, it always feels kind of stuck in my chest, like stuck.
all right, so let's try this. Are you open to
Okay.
trying this?
Yes.
So let's sit up nice and straight. And I invite all the listeners at home, put your hand on your lower abdomen with your thumb at the level of your navel. So we're breathing way down here. This is not breathing from the diaphragm like in yoga. This is lower abdominal breathing, and this is going to change your brain function. So if you close your eyes and bring your eyes down to your belly, and you're just going to focus here and relax your shoulders, maybe do a couple shoulder stretches, and then let your belly stick out. You're totally relaxed, no sucking in your gut. And then let's start with an exhale. So you slowly squeeze your abdominal muscles, squeezing them till all the air is gone. And then you inhale again. And notice how you naturally want to go into your chest. And it's okay. You just keep bringing your awareness down to the belly and let your belly blow up like a balloon on the inhale. So we want to do this for 6 to 8 seconds. It's a bit of a workout in the beginning for most people, and that's normal. So what this does, it calms your sympathetic nervous system. It activates the vagus nerve. And the greatest thing, you start to develop a new neural pathway that this is the way to breathe to feel safe. So for me, my body naturally I remember when I used to hold my breath, keep going, just keep going with it. I noticed when I went through a shift in my life, or shifts where I might be learning a new skill, or I feel kind of under the gun, under pressure, and I go to hold my breath, my body, it'll go there, but then it quickly converts to this method. So it's ingrained in me. I've got the neural pathway developed. So we all have the fight or flight response, fight, flight, or freeze, and then there's fawn as well, where you play dead. I've had a few clients learn to play dead when they were really small to feel safe. Their mother was going to get them. But breathing like this serves you, and you can open your eyes and you will start to move into your subconscious.
Well,
And
it does work out your abs.
yes, it does.
Like, oh, I feel tense there. Like it's sore.
But it's a great practice, and
It
it's
is.
practice. It's not about the getting there. And then you'll start to notice, do you think you'll practice this, Melissa?
Yeah.
And you'll start to notice that a few things. One, you might notice that your inhale is longer than your exhale, or vice versa, and there's meaning around that. And I could get into
Really.
if you wanted to. And
I
then
would
you'll
love
notice
you
that,
to.
okay, you'll notice that the inhale, let's say the exhale, it's more common in North America for people's exhale to be longer than their inhale. And the exhale is our expression into life, and the
Mm,
inhale is our capacity to receive. So we're so conditioned to express. A lot of people have difficulty receiving compliments, receiving love, receiving that deep connection, because it's that openness to
yeah.
receive is not as familiar. No, we have to do. It's not about
Yes.
being and being open. And then the other thing that you might notice, and not to worry about it, you might be moving along really well with the full breath, and then the breath becomes jagged, that it's like, it's hard to breathe smoothly. That's a wound coming up. That's an emotion that wants to be felt. And so you just keep breathing, notice the jaggedness, and see if you can just name the emotion. I feel. And just wait, or ask yourself, what do I feel? What is the emotion? Be curious and it'll come up, and allow yourself to feel it. And through breathing through the emotion, it releases that repressed emotion. So you don't,
Wow.
it's not hidden in there anymore, causing you to react, creating the triggers that you're used to.
Yeah, and I already feel myself naturally breathing differently too. Like, cause before I was, like, feeling it in my chest, but I'm feeling it in my belly now.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
You're a quick study.
Well, I mean, I try. I mean, this is what's weird to me is that, like, I think about breath a lot because of, like, my own spirituality and whatever. Um, and I know that it's something that I do, but that's something that my subconscious really fights, is to breathe in a better way, you know? That's why I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, I think I'm just kind of starting in the last couple of months to really see some very deep layers of protection, like, that I have kept between myself and everyone, particularly my spouse, but, like, everyone, for my entire life. Like, I had seen a lot of it, but there's just been a very, like, a much deeper understanding of it in the last couple of months, and I feel like my holding my breath is very much related to that, to those protective layers that I'm still holding on to. And so I just find it really crazy that after one little breathing session, well, first of all, my abs really are sore. And then second, that, like, I literally am breathing differently. Because before I was feeling actually a little short of breath and my chest was tight and I was feeling every breath in my chest. But I'm feeling, like, really heavy expansion with each breath now. So that's so cool.
It's very exciting, and it tells me a couple things, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to analyze you, but to just,
No, you do you.
so there's a couple things going on with you. One, when you start to witness these protective layers, you're already in healing. As soon as we begin to witness our patterns, that's with an awareness that your left brain and right brain are working together, because it doesn't just come from the thinking. There's an
Right.
awareness. So it tells me you're moving along. And then when you breathe this way, you're open to it. You did your best. Oh, you're feeling the results. And those layers of protection were there to keep you safe. And so you learn to hold your breath because that felt safe. I
Mhm.
freeze and then I'm safe, but it's not true. That's just
Right.
Bible. We all know that. That's the amygdala kicking in gear, and we all have that. And so now you're starting to develop the neural pathway that you need, that I'm safest. I'm more safe when I breathe fully. And so you can keep doing that. And then when you go into meditation and do the full breath, you can go into inquiry around these protective layers. And what I would love to do is offer some meditations, a link to some free meditations that you can do.
Yeah.
All you listeners at home, if you stay till the end, you'll be able to click on the link and to get you going with this, because the number one thing that people need today is to feel safe and stable. And we all have subconscious blocks around
Mhm.
feeling safe and stable. And that's what these meditations will help you get to.
Yeah. So what kind of, like, for you in your personal life now, or even just from when you first started to meditate, you found this class and whatever, what is your personal focus of healing? Like, what are you tapping into? I don't know if I'm
For
wording that well
myself
enough.
personally.
Yeah.
Nobody asks me that.
Really?
Um, no, nobody asks me
Oh.
that. I've never been asked that,
Mm.
and I've been on a
Well,
lot.
you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable.
No, I'm happy to. I'm happy to.
Okay.
I'm this is, and it's one of the things I really appreciate you so much, in you, Melissa, is your capacity to be vulnerable. So I'm going to be very vulnerable here. My own healing journey right now is opening myself up to more and more living in oneness and
Yeah.
not doing anything around that. So, for example, I have my meditations in the morning, and then I go for 2 walks during the day, one after lunch, because I love connecting with nature. I live up in the mountains of Colorado, and I'm just
Oh,
surrounded by these mountains. It's heaven
beautiful.
on earth, and I feel so held by the universe, by source, God, creator, and it's just so beneficial for me. And so I'm in this place of so I went on a walk last night and had a state that I used to only be able to reach after a 1-week personal retreat of meditating for an entire week by myself. I just slipped into that state, and I could vibrationally, energetically, however you wanna say it, feel the earth. It's hard to talk about this because I was just so in experience. I just was
Mhm.
in the oneness, but I could feel the planet at a higher level. I was a part of it all, and I was experiencing the Earth's aliveness.
Mhm.
And when I saw the ground, so in Colorado, we have all the mountains. This time of year, there's this tall grass that's everywhere out in the country, and it's such a beautiful yellow. It turns yellow early on, but the yellow was so vibrant. It was like it was lit up. And I'm walking through this, and then my left brain would kind of want to kick in and try and understand what was
Yes.
happening. And I would just go, no, it's okay. And then I would just be, be again. And I'm just tuning in. How do I feel about talking about all this? I feel fine. So that's, yeah, it's, and really, I believe that this is where humanity is heading. I believe that humanity is evolving, and people say, I think it's the best time to be alive. I believe all our souls signed up to be alive right now.
Absolutely.
There's no, like you said, no coincidences. And so everything that's happening in the world, the good, the bad, and the in between, is serving us, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
Serving us in the greatest ways. And so the things that we see as negative are serving us, and it's about finding the divine in everything, seeing that it's divine. And
Mhm.
there are people who are doing their very best. The number one thing I believe we can all do for humanity is work on our own healing and empowerment, because that spreads, that ripples out, whatever path you choose. And then there's the people who are still in that age too, that I experience so often, that are trying to control. They're stuck in their wounds, and they're
Mhm.
trying to control everything and make
Mhm.
things the way they want them to be so they feel safe. They are so deep
Scarcity
stuck,
mindset.
stuck, stuck, stuck. And
Yep.
so if we can all try and see them as wounded, they're in a lot of pain and they can't get out of it. And
Absolutely.
and we are all one. They are a soul in a body, just like we are a soul in a body. And then bring it back to yourself. And we can look at, if somebody really upsets you, like your triggers that you're talking about, Melissa, what is it reflecting back to you?
Exactly. Well,
Right?
and I also believe I love that. That was one of my first, like, experiences when after I had a spiritual awakening, I had heard of it and I was like, okay, then I want to test this. I want to experience this for myself. And I started small, like, if I'm mad at you for this, what am I actually upset with myself about? And, different things like that. And when I had, like, ooh, just all these ahas all the time. I mean, my initial, like, first 8 months of awakening were crazy. Like, I was like, "Is this psychosis?" Because I just was becoming a completely different person, you know? And so what I've come to understand is you have to start with you. You have to become so intimately aware of all of your little shadows so that you can learn to love them and forgive them and hold them and understand they're all just a beautiful part of you. And when you can offer yourself unconditional love and positive regard, it's so easy to extend that to others. And not at first, maybe, because you're not learning, that's part of the process. Is the next step is, how do I see me in you and you in me? And I don't think, like, I think our childhoods were probably very different. I think our wounds were created in different ways. I don't think our wounds are different. That's what I have really come to, is that, and so when people talk, I can hear their shame. I can hear their betrayal and their neglect and, all of those things. And because I can go, you are a human. This is your wounding. You don't have any different intentions than I do. And I certainly did not think I was causing the level of harm to others or myself that I was. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And what stands out to me, what you're doing, if I can lump it into one category, that's so powerful is you're taking responsibility for
Yes.
yourself. You're taking
Yes.
responsibility for your life as a human, and you're taking responsibility at a soul level. So
Mhm.
I'm I'm going to be giving a talk on this healing summit later this month. I'm doing a keynote. It's actually my first keynote. I'm excited about.
Congrats.
Yeah. And it was actually offered to me. So yeah, so I'm excited. And the title is What Was Your Soul Thinking? What was your
I
soul
love
thinking?
this.
So you
Yes.
are in alignment with that, that you can
Yeah.
always ask that question. What was my soul thinking? So if you remember, every one of our souls came in with a number of plans, things, situations, no coincidences that we've
Mhm.
chosen to grow through. Now, if we don't learn the lesson in one situation, it's going to come around again and again and
It
again.
absolutely will. It absolutely will. I see it in my life all the time.
And so, all these situations, yes, it's about loving yourself. And what is love? Love, that unconditional love that most of us didn't get from the mother because she didn't get it. She didn't
They
know
didn't
how. And
have it.
people keep doing better and better. I see these young mothers today helping the children. It's how do you help
Yeah.
a toddler process their emotions? Wow, we have
Mhm.
made such headway. And it's being that parent for the self and allowing yourself to feel all those emotions, to release those repressed emotions, to be your own emotional resource. It is
Yeah.
the number one thing to do. That's what I do in my Azarias energy healing. I have my own certification program that I teach. That's what I practice now. It's come from all sorts of other modalities, and I find that that is the number one thing that you can do. And it can be really hard, but you can learn how to be the little self who's in pain, serious emotional pain, and allow those emotions. And when you release them through the full breath, they actually go away. They're released because you're taking them out of the subconscious. If you feel your emotions with your left brain, you're thinking and you're holding your breath, you're recreating the trauma. You
Yeah.
keep that energetic pattern going, the neural pathway. And then it's all about reparenting
Mhm.
yourself. And like you say, loving yourself fully. It starts with that sense of I'm responsible for myself, my small self, my higher self, my soul, my person, whatever. And that's what you're talking about. It's that sense of responsibility, which is a root chakra thing. I'm
Yeah.
owning this. Oh, and it's hard work, right, Melissa? But
It
we
is.
do it. It's worth
It
it.
is, and there it comes with releasing so much shame about all the things you didn't know.
Exactly, exactly. And shame is, David Hawkins has his charts of the vibrational, the energy of all our emotions, and shame is way down there at the bottom. You know what? I've discovered the other emotion that is so common in trauma besides shame, it's confusion.
Mm,
Confusion because the little self, that 1-year-old, that 2-year-old couldn't make sense of what was happening. It was
and
it
didn't have trust in themselves.
and their brains cannot compute. I mean, as
Mhm.
adults, if we witness,
Right.
we don't have, it's confusion. So the confusion carries on in life, and science has proven that trauma is not so much about the incident. It's not so much about what happened, even when it's sexual abuse, folks,
Right.
even when it's torture. It's about the lingering feeling of confusion, the uncertainty about life. And from that, because we feel uncertain, we move into fear, which is such a low vibration, that things
Yeah.
won't work out.
Yeah.
There's that. It's the uncertainty. So as we evolve, and you talked about trust, the more of these emotions we release, the clearer the being we become, the more in our light, literally, scientifically in our light. This is not woo. Then we can expand and move more into trust. Oh, this is happening in my life. We can be going through such hardship and just be in trust. Oh, this is serving me. All right, I'm going to live in
Mhm.
it moment by moment by moment, and be and witness and do all these things we're talking about.
Yes. I love that. Well, you and I are very in alignment. It sounds like we're doing a lot of the same stuff.
Absolutely. So
I
true.
love it. Well, before we wrap up, where can we find you?
I would just say the number one thing to do is click on my link for these free meditations. It's 2 meditations, one on the full breath and then one on the full rhythmic breath. And then it moves into creating safety and stability in the root chakra. So this is my gift. And if I could give you all my social media, my website and all that, but why? I want you to have an experience. You've listened to this, you're either resonating or you're not. And it's
Yeah.
okay either way. But click the link, give this gift to yourself, get into your subconscious, and help yourself move to a whole new level. And you'll get some emails, and you can contact me.
Perfect. Well, I love that. Well, I certainly appreciate you being here today. I love your energy. I love that we got to connect on this level. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for your vulnerability. It certainly helps me to also stay vulnerable whenever my guest is too. But I really appreciate this connection with you so much.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. It truly has been such an honor. And if we can all remember, I believe we are all powerful beyond what we can imagine. You can't
Mhm.
imagine the person you're becoming.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to push stop, but if you'll hang for just 1 second. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.